So when you're labeling, one of the things that we like to talk about is how you label in response to some kind of inappropriate or patronizing behavior. So the first type, or the first thing you're going to do, if it's appropriate, is redirect the conversation. So this is when the behavior that's coming at you is kind of putting things off track, but it's not offensive and it's not affecting the long-term relationship. So, sometimes you can kind of let it slide, sometimes you shouldn't. It's what you want to do here is, in a normal label, you're going to ignore the comment and put the conversation kind of back on track. So you're going to say something like, seems like you want to get the best deal here, and refocus them. Seems like your team is important to you. Refocus back to what you're talking about. Okay. This is just when it feels like the focus of the conversation is actually in the wrong place. So you want to make sure you gear it back in the right direction, but you don't want to come out and say something off-putting to the other side, because that's not going to help you at all. So you just refocus a little bit by using that label. The next one is going to be a thought pattern interrupt. This is when the behavior needs to stop. So whatever is happening, it feels like the focus of the negotiation or conversation is turning to you rather than the actual negotiation. So it's disruptive to whatever's happening, and it can be affecting the whole deal. So when you're getting this far, and when it is behavior that needs to stop, it is going to damage the future relationship if you don't take care of it. So what you want to say then is, it seems like you're not interested in whatever, bringing them back on focus a little bit. This makes them consider, hopefully, that the behavior that they're doing may be negatively affecting things that are going on. And you want to make sure you point that out. So behavior needs to stop. So the last one that we talk about, and Davey, please interrupt me if somebody puts something in the chat that we want to talk about. And if you want to add anything, please just pipe up there, anybody. The last one is what we call a confronting label. This is very assertive, so you want to be careful when you use it, but this is when the behavior needs to stop and be addressed. So remember, redirecting, you're just labeling before it gets off track. When you're creating the thought pattern interrupt, the behavior needs to stop. So you're gearing them another way to stop whatever the behaviors that they've now suddenly gotten into. The confronting label is when maybe those other two labels haven't worked, or maybe it's just gone off course really quickly. So you want to use that confronting label and label what's happening and address it at the same time. So this comes about a lot of times when people take the liberty to call you cute little names like honey and sweetie. And the way you can deal with that, because this is very assertive, remember, seems like you think it's okay to address me that way. So this is when that behavior makes you feel like you need to put walls up against the other side. And I'm sure everyone on this call at one point or another has been in some kind of conversation where all of a sudden you feel like, whoa, this is not going where I want it to go. This needs to stop. This is when this label is going to come in handy. When you address that actual behavior, calling you honey or calling you sweetie, and force them to face up to it. And Davey, I wanted you to talk a little bit about this because you have some interesting stories about dealing with behavior like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're gonna, Sandy's gonna call me a few times. I just have about, I have negative patience for being called names or being mansplained to, or like, I just have absolutely no patience for it. So the idea behind, just to kind of reiterate a couple of things that Sandy has said, the idea behind a label is it's a verbal observation, right? And so frequently how you use a label is in information gathering. When you're wanting someone to talk, to continue on. But what it does is that it really guides a conversation. So you're able to express, you can use it to express understanding, right? Because you say like, it seems like something that I've said has upset you. You can use it to express understanding in that way. But a lot of times, and what we're talking about right here, is essentially guiding a conversation, right? That's what a label can be used for, is really guiding where it's going. And so a lot of times when people are talking to us in a certain way, oftentimes because we're a woman, then what we can do is use a label to redirect the whole conversation. So Sandy was using an example of kind of like different layers, right? Of, okay, do we just want to redirect it? Or is it more, do we need to be more assertive about this? So yeah, so the redirect the conversation, you just can say something about the deal, something about what you're talking about. So along the lines of, it seems like you're really interested in what's a good example? It seems like you're really interested, well, because we have a few here that I really liked, of what people were like, different fields that people are in, and what we're hoping to gain. So for example, influencing people to join a team, right? It seems like you're really looking for a team that makes sure that they value you, right? You might say something like that. And that'll just help keep the conversation where you are wanting it to go. But then the other ones, it's really more about kind of stopping behavior, addressing behavior, is what we're talking about right here, but they can be used in a lot of different ways. Sorry, I just like went on for a long time, Sandy. So
No, you're fine.
We'll stop
You're fine. Keep going. No. So Davey has become pretty adept at dealing with those ones that confront because behavior needs to stop, and you can't just let it go. You can't just redirect in a like that second layer way when you're causing that thought pattern interrupt to kind of get them, get their attention focused elsewhere. But this is when behavior needs to stop, and you need to point out to them that this is negative behavior that you shouldn't have to put up with. And I remember Brandon talking about a very specific TikTok video.
Oh my gosh, we're revealing so much here. I'm like, okay.
And Juana, we'll get with you in a second. I'm not ignoring you. Just hold on, I promise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so essentially this is a way, because I know a lot of you have said too that it's kind of what you're wanting to learn here is how to be tactful, firm, making sure that as a woman, it's like, okay, we know that we're coming in with certain people might have biases, right? But that we really need to learn how to be tactful and still firm. This is a great way to do that. So Sandy already said an example that I think is great for, it seems like you think that's okay to call me that. And tone is everything here, and we'll get to that. But like being able to address that behavior, or like say that a colleague is asking you out, right? And it's like, okay, this is totally not appropriate. But you could say something like, it seems like you think it's appropriate to be talking to me that way. Or it seems like you think that this partnership is really different than what it is. Or, right, so you're just kind of making a verbal observation, but what it does is it stops their brain and makes sure that they now have to deal with the fact that their behavior is impeding progress of the partnership, of the deal, whatever it might be.